Shut up, compressor. Okay, so the jug is underway. And it's pretty much at a point now where I think it's useful to stop, take stock, look at what I've done and what I'm planning to do, and all that stuff. So as you can see, the fuselage is basically roughly taped together. There's still a lot of cleanup that needs to happen with sprue gates and all that sort of shit. No big deal there. Inside, I've got the internal ductwork more or less built up. You can see cut some stuff off that's extraneous and not really needed. All that stuff inside is not really seen. The most that you will see is basically, as you can see back in here, some of the ducting for the side gates. That's pretty much it. It's basically there to hold the spars in place and to help somewhat locate the cockpit, and that's about all. Now, one thing that I've added here are the Canopy Sills from the Edward PE set. One frustrating thing about the PE set is you can see there's a nice sort of shallow curve that follows along the sill line here. And these pieces don't follow it. So once they get back here, they just kind of go straight and it gets all wonky and you basically have to decide, do I want one side hanging off or the other side hanging off? So I decided, fuck it, I'll just cut them off and go with the parts that matter, because once you put the canopy down on top, you're not going to see those anyway. They're not going to be visible. So, no harm, no foul there. Now, these spars are great because they will help locate the wings. And they also make sure that everything fits together pretty much on rails. Up here, this is honestly where Trumpeter gets stupid as shit. So, as you can see these 4 holes back here on the firewall, right? Well, what they would have you do, let me dig the instructions out so you can actually see it, because it's not going to be happening in real life. So basically what Trumpeter would have you do is have you take these 4 little spindly pieces of plastic, glue them together in a precarious fashion, and then attach those to those holes. Dumb, just really dumb, because then they would basically mount into these little tiny holes on part Q8, which is this part. All very precarious, and basically their whole thing is to have you do that, then take the completed engine and connect it again very precariously via the exhaust collector rings to these 2 little holes in the front. Those 2 little D-looking holes right back there. And then some extra little parts here to kind of further connect it back. It's really wonky and overly complicated for something that won't be seen unless you were leaving the cowl off, which I don't plan to do because the cowl on mine is bare metal, which is awesome. So instead of doing all that whole rigmarole and dealing with that, I have a better plan. This Q8 part, you can see it kind of connects to the ducting there, and then basically just plugs into the front of the fuselage. And there's a whole big mounting surface around here where Tamiya Extra Thin or MEK or any other solvent of your choice can get a good grip and basically glue it down. Now again, cleanup is still needed. You can see it kind of sticks up proud on the bottom, but you get the general idea. So I have absolutely no doubt that I can get this thing locked in place to where it is not going to move, which then gets us to, well, how to connect the engine and the cowl. So back to the instructions briefly. If you look at the R2800 and the way they have it built up, you've got the cylinder banks and all that stuff. Then you have these T13 and T12 parts that are basically a frame. You put these around the engine once it's built, and it gets something like that, and then that is basically the frame that the cowl grabs onto when you mount it. Plus, these things back here kind of help locate the back of it, and the bottom of it, etc. So, once the cowl is on the engine and the engine is all in place, etc., the engine's very, very hastily mocked up at this point. As you can see, I cut off all the extraneous exhaust connectors because they're just not necessary when you look at it from the front. You're not going to see any of them at all. No matter, you're going to have a cowl around this thing, it's going to be hidden. You're not going to be able to see it on the sides. So Not needed, they interfere with fit, they're gone. But these collector rings do matter. And what they do is they help locate the engine right there, like so. Which is going to be important for mounting the cowl and all that stuff. Now that's a really, really weak connection for all of that stuff, right? Yeah, it is. So instead of doing the whole like weird internal pieces thing and stuff, my plan is to take, I'll probably have to get some sort of weaker ones because these are honestly a bit overpowered. But my plan is to take magnets and let them do their business. And these magnets are honestly strong as all hell. Like, if you want to see the real strength of them, check this out. These tweezers are pretty heavy. I mean, they make a thud, and it can, if you get it balanced right, it can hold this entire tweezer just out horizontally with no effort. And then if you want to hold it vertically, I mean, it's not going anywhere. So the plan is to, Jesus Christ, these things are very hyperactive. But my plan is to basically locate one of them sort of back behind the Q8 piece, like so, you know, put some sort of truss work across in here to basically locate it right in the center, and then glue another one on the back here, you know, in this type location. And then just let them meet up naturally and be all happy. And I'll probably do a thing where I will actually let them, jeez, they're fucking crazy. I'll probably let them actually magnetize together first and then do my gluing so that they're properly located, because if they're off by just a little bit, they won't have it, and they will, you know, they will relock into the correct alignment no matter what you do. So I'll probably just leave them like this or something similar. I might try to put a barrier of plastic between them so they're not quite as powerful. They're still powerful as hell, but you can see they're a little bit less so when they have something slight between them. So that's the plan there. Build a magnet to hold things in place. Okay, what do we have next? Next we have the cockpit. Now I've added a little bit of photo etch in here. Basically the rear bulkhead, the kick plates. I've got some stuff left to do on the sides, particularly the throttle body over here. And the main thing that was pain in the ass with this was this rear bulkhead, because right in here there was a headrest, and the Edward set in its wisdom has you literally come in and remove that headrest, but save it to use later. So I came in with this little handy micro file thing and basically sawed around the outside of the headrest until I could get purchase, and came in with the back end of the X-Acto. This is, I guess, basic modeling skills or something. I don't think so. And scored along the edge of the headrest until I kind of went, you know, burned through on the backside. You can kind of see the hole there, and was able to lift it off. That is now right here. Voila. And it will be secured to the headrest, or to the rear bulkhead, with this little photo etch bracket, which, not the prettiest folding job in the world, but I can straighten it out a little bit before it's time to glue things in. What else do we have in the fun cockpit? Well, we have a photo etch seat, which is awesomely thin, nicely detailed. You know, definitely blows the kit seat out of the water, and is pretty much the main reason that I would recommend getting this interior set to really dress up the big 132nd Thunderbolt. And this just kind of, you know, plops in here. Easier to do with tweezers. Theoretically. Come on. Okay, there we go. So seat is in place, etc. Up front, we've got the instrument panel and the rudders. Now, in the last build I did of this, like 6 years ago, I actually removed the rudders and replaced them with photo etch, and never noticed the difference after I did that. So I'm just leaving the plastic on in this case. Went ahead and drilled out the back of the instrument gauge clusters so I can run some wiring in there because it will be visible through the front of the canopy and the windscreen. This gets to come and sit right in here like so, and that's how that works. Then I decided I'm going to go ahead and give Trumpeter's instrument panel a shot. I used to hate these things, and then I worked on the Dauntless, and I figured out if you take a little bit of time and prep them properly, they're actually pretty damn good looking. So the key is to come in here and mask all of the gauge faces. This is a mix of vinyl, and where I ran out of vinyl of the right size, I've got some whisker biscuit that I just kind of dabbed in place with a toothpick and let sort of flow out into a circular shape. And Trumpeter gives you a wonderful sheet of acetate. Basically paint the back of it white and then glue it up to the back side of this, and boom, you've got a gorgeous, wonderful instrument panel. The other big part of the cockpit is this lovely Gunsight mount. Now, when I built the D-20, the way that this mounted was to the back of the instrument panel, so it would kind of come in and sit like so. That's not what happens on this one. On this one, it's a little bit more of a pain in the ass. So you have to mount it to this piece, which holds the armored glass and all that stuff, and it kind of slots into this little hole on the front of the windscreen, and will have to be glued in place like this before this gets glued onto the fuselage. So definitely some work to do there in terms of getting it all prepped and making sure that everything joins up nicely and looks good. But we're coming along. And then the gun sight itself, I'm planning on using a Quick Boost or Master Details resin Mark 8 gun sight instead of the kit's massively, hilariously over large version of the thing. So, coming along with the compressor dead, moment of silence. I can't really prime anything, and so I can't paint, so I've got a couple days of just tooling around with fun construction things. Now, what else do we have going on? The other big thing that I am dealing with at the moment is actually the blast tubes. Now, the P-47 is pretty famous for having 8 50 caliber guns in each wing, and those guns are basically, you don't have the typical 50 perforated barrel kind of thing that you have on a lot of other aircraft. You have aluminum blast tubes. And these essentially kicked the all the gun shit coming out of it well away from the leading edge of the wings, kept everything a little bit cleaner. I believe it also kept things from going back into the guns and was just more aerodynamic. So that's all well and good. Challenge that we face is how to mount them. Basically, the way that Trumpeter would have you do it, it's always fun to walk through this first, is they would have you install the guns and install the barrels into the guns, close up the wing with the guns sticking out, just flapping in the breeze. And then, after all of that, come in with these, D9, and I believe them as D8, and slot them onto the wing, and then you have, everything is all hunky-dory. Two problems with this. First of all, this part does not fit super well to the wing. It's kind of a wonky fit. So that's problem one, because who wants to be cleaning up all that around guns and everything? Second part is these things are supposed to be aluminum, which is a, wonderful silvery color. The wings are not. The wings are, on this case, going to be olive drab and neutral gray. And I'm going to obviously want to do chipping and all kinds of scuffing around the leading edge, because we're talking the Pineapple Air Force, which did not exactly fly clean P-47s. So, how to install these after the fact. That's the trick. And a big part of the problem with that is the way that they're designed. Now, if you look here, these slot in from the back wonderfully. Nice and tight, perfect size. They look the part. They're, for all intents and purposes, they are perfect, except if you try to pull it through, it will not come through. Why is that? That is because on the back end, back here, cover it up so you can see it, there is that little ridge, that little ring of slightly larger diameter than the barrel itself. So my first option I'm going to pursue, is to basically come in with a Dremel or a file or something and get rid of that so that it is all one diameter and I can then slide it in from the front. Challenge there is if you look at the wings, now P-47 wings get pretty thick, and you can see, you know, some of the holes in here for the gear bay and stuff. So there's a lot of up and down play that you're going to have and all that kind of shit. And these guns, you know, the inner gun is pretty far out, so you don't have that far to go to get the hole. It's just kind of like shunk right there. But these outer ones are pretty far back. You're having to push this gun a long way, or this little blast tube a long way into the wing and find exactly where it needs to go. Not exactly something I'm looking all that forward to. So I need to figure out how I want to make that happen. Now, option one, assuming that I can slice off this fun little bit here, will be to build some sort of like slide work where, you know, if I have the gun sitting, say right here, maybe putting some sort of, you know, channel styrene out this way so that I can find that with this blast tube and just kind of find it, hit it, and slide into position. That's option one. And I'll probably do something like that no matter what, just to make sure that I am not wagging all over the place. Just, you know, nice and right in where it needs to go. Option two, and I'll probably also pursue this as well concurrently, is instead of having to put, you know, some sort of glue on it, you know, PVA or super glue, whatever, and then happen to find my way back to the right hole, what if we used Dennah Magnets? So use some of these awesome little 1mm by 1mm superheroes. They are smaller in diameter than the actual blast tubes. So stick one of them on the end of this thing. You know, there's a little tiny nub piece sticking up right in there. File that down, glue these in, and then drill out an extra millimeter of depth into the machine gun, and voila, we have, you know, the magnet on this end and the magnet on the inside of the machine gun. And then once I hit that slide channel that takes me back to the gun, everything should just snick into place and be happy. Now, if that does not work and does not prove practical, and I can't, you know, it's like I can't hit the distance or whatever it is, there's another option, which is to essentially come in here and build like a dam of plastic across, say right here. And then measure off the distance, you know, fit up the machine guns and everything, see what the distances are, measure on these things, and then cut them. Then do the magnets on this little plastic dam and just, because we're talking, you know, a quarter of an inch versus an inch in terms of distance I have to get back there to connect things. So I'm going to be playing around with that and seeing what I can make happen. Either way, no matter what happens, I will have a cool way of mounting the guns on this, or the blast tubes, I keep fucking saying guns, after the fact instead of having to do it before, because doing it before is just a total bitch move. So that is the P-47 for now. Thank you for watching, and stay tuned for all kinds of awesomeness to come.